All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sarah Centrella Show. I am excited for today's conversation because this one is for anyone in corporate or anyone really with a job, let's be honest, or anyone in leadership. So, we're going to get into all of the things that is going on in that world, in your world at work. With my guest today, Jay Abbasi. I'm really thrilled for all of you to meet him because I had the opportunity to be on his podcast a couple weeks ago and we had a fire conversation, not shocking at all. And so I want to have this opportunity to just pick your brain, Jay. You have been on TEDx stages. You're a former Tesla executive, and you've been working with all the major corporations, talking about burnout, resilience, gosh, all the things we're going through right now, AI, everything. So, welcome to the show. Can't wait to get into all of it. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to do this a second time. First time around was amazing. And
Right?
so I know it's going to be a blast in round two.
Absolutely. And I'm just so excited to like tap your knowledge base now. Like, ooh, there's so many things that you and I have in common from the perspective of what we believe in, what we teach, what we help leaders be able to do. Resilience is a big part of my story, as you well know. It's a big part of what you teach. But before we get into all of that juicy, good stuff, on this show, we love a backstory. As you well know, I was on your show. Backstory is kind of everything here for me. So, talk to us a little bit about how you got here. Like, did you have a turning point moment? Who were you before all of this happened, before corporate happened? Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So I'll take you back 15 years ago, Sarah, when I was working at a finance company, kind of the thing that so many people go through. You get out of college and you get a job, you work that job, and you work really hard, tirelessly. At the same time, I was going to school, I was getting my graduate's degree. I was newly married. My daughter was a year, 2 years, and I was just trying to do everything all at once, working at a company that I felt sure it paid the bills, but I wasn't incredibly excited or fulfilled by what I was doing. And it was taking a toll on me. And I wasn't even aware, Sarah, that it was. All
Hmm.
of a sudden, I'm 40 pounds overweight. My marriage is falling apart. I'm
Yeah.
in credit card debt, and I'm just unhappy.
Yeah.
And it really didn't, I didn't get a wake up call until June 22nd, 2014, that exact day. And that was when my mother called me at 6 a.m. that morning to tell me my father had a heart attack.
Oh.
And by the time I got to the hospital, he'd passed away. And
Mhm.
so anybody who's ever lost someone they love, especially unexpectedly, you know how
Right.
that can shift the
Everything.
trajectory of your life. Yeah. And so for me, it became my wake up call. I was waking up at 4 a.m. every day,
Mhm.
reading books about how I can live better and be better. I was getting coaches around me. I'd go to events and seminars. I was just trying to learn as much as I could, and it led me down the path of leaving this finance company. I start working at this company named SolarCity. It gets acquired by Tesla. I rise the ranks really fast, and I'm thriving in the
Yeah.
environment because so much of what I did for myself applied to the
Yes.
craziness and chaos of corporate.
Yeah. And just
And
makes you
that
such a better employee and everything, right? Like you're actually able to harness and turn it into something big. Yeah.
exactly right. And then that when I left corporate, that became my mission, Sarah, to be
Mhm.
able to help other leaders who are in the place that I was in to be able to, because they care, right? You want to do great work, you want to
Yeah.
perform at a high level, and you want to be able to go to your family with a smile on your face and be able to
Exactly.
enjoy your life too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, I just want to say I'm so sorry for your loss. I know exactly very similar, I would say. My brother passed away of a heart attack at 46 years old last June 18th. So right
Wow, I'm
around the
so sorry.
same date as your father too. And that heart attack passing is just, man, it just wipes you out. You're just like, yo, we were texting like two hours ago. What are you talking about? So
It was like
oh,
it was like you enter a new dimension of life. Like you're
oh
like
my God.
everything all of a sudden feels like it's spinning,
There's
and it
no
was,
orientation. Oh my God, that is the worst part. It's just like
yeah.
nothing makes sense. It's your brain just refuses. It is the most disorienting thing.
Yeah, and Sarah, it's fascinating that, we're having this conversation today because today is my father's birthday today.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
and
love you,
so he would have
Dad.
been,
Giving him the
yeah, he would have been
love.
67 today. And so it's a day I often just tell my family, let's not only think about the things that we missed out on, let's remember the great things and celebrate the
Yeah.
time that we did have and all the lessons he shared with us and the incredible moments that we can refer back to and just savor.
Yeah. And also, how can we live a better life because of the love that we had for this person that is gone? I think that really just hit me sideways. I wound up taking a 2 month trip, solo trip to Europe about 2 months later, and it was everything I needed. I did all these things that scared me that I'd never do, and but we don't want people to have to go through loss. No one wants to go through a loss like that, to wake up in their life and to really want to be the best version of themselves. A lot of times that is what it takes, but we don't want everyone to go through that because it is horrible. So what are some of the things when you were out reading and just really trying to grow as a human, trying to be the best version of yourself that you could be? What were some of those initial things that just really, really stuck, really hit you? And how did you plug them in to your real life to get a shift to happen?
Yeah,
The big part that is most people are doing.
the first thing that comes to my mind, Sarah, was when I learned about meditation and my initial resistance to it.
Mm,
So I remember I'd be reading these books. Some of the things I would be reading were spirituality related, and then some were personal development related. And so you do hear about it in spirituality, and
right,
you're like, I don't know, maybe that's not for me. In my upbringing, that was something that I would never do. My
right,
father
right.
would never have told me to do these kind of things. I just grew up where that wasn't a thing. Now I'm reading it in personal development as well.
Mhm.
And even professional development. People are saying the
Clear
practice
your
of
mind.
meditation,
Clear
right,
your mind.
would help me to perform better and be calmer. And I said, all right, fine, I'll give this thing a shot. And I started to do it. And at first it was tough, it was hard. And then I found a rhythm to it. And Sarah, I remember having moments after a number of weeks of meditating where I was like, huh, I'm noticing that I'm getting angry. That's
Interesting.
interesting.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm
You were
noticing my,
noticing, you were having
right.
that separation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, wow, look at how I'm reacting. Isn't that
Mhm.
interesting? I don't have to go down that path. I can choose a different one. And it
That's
was
mind
the
blowing in
biggest
itself, right? Mind
game
blowing.
changer of all things, Sarah.
Yeah. To me, just the simple concept, which took me a long time to really let it sink in and understand what it means, is that I am not my thoughts. They just, for most people, they are the thing. They are who you are as a person. If your brain tells you you're this way, you're this way, and and meditation I think is so great for that because you get to observe them. And as soon as you put a teeny bit of distance, then you can argue with them and be like, yo, is that even true? Like, where the
Yeah.
fuck did that come from? That's insane, like,
So,
but
I use this
without that, you
analogy.
just can't do it.
I use this analogy, Sarah. I think you'll like it. Okay, so imagine you go to a bar and you're sitting at the bar, and then to your left there is a drunken person who's loud and obnoxious. And what would you do? How would you handle the person if they're yelling at you a lot? Now, you wouldn't yell back because that wouldn't help,
Right.
right? But you wouldn't agree with everything the person's saying either and say, you're right. I'm going to listen to this crazy drunk person.
I'm gonna live
No,
my
what
whole
you
life based on what that drunkard says.
Right. No, what you would do is you would go, okay, thank you for telling me, thank you for sharing, and you would just go on with
Right.
your life. And
Yes.
and this is what meditation helps you to do. It's that
Hmm.
crazy version of you, that angry, upset, worried thought that comes to your mind. You don't have to let it fuel your behavior. You don't have to agree with it. Now, at the same time, Sarah, you're sitting at that bar to the right. There's a wise person who offers you incredible advice, that offers you some suggestions. You would listen to that person.
Right.
What meditation does is it gives you the ability to be in that chair and discern what's true, what's not true, what serves me, what doesn't serve me.
Snap on that. Absolutely. Because it's like if everyone really understood this and was like, I have the power to sort. But to me, that's kind of like what it is. It's like I'm sorting. Like like you said, these two people sitting next to me, I can look at it and most people are probably honestly arguing with the wise one. Right? They're like, well, I don't know, I know you're saying I'm ready for this, but I'm really not ready for this. And I haven't, had experience in this particular leadership role. I can't do that yet, and it's like, why are we arguing with that kind of instinctual internal coach that we're all built with and then listening to the psycho on the other side. So it's like, as soon as you understand, hey, there's all of these things happening in your brain and they are not you, they're just every human walking the planet is experiencing some version of this. All the different things that we're picking up from everything around us. And hey, what if I control that? So,
Yeah.
where do you see that being the most effective? And then what happens in leadership role, let's say, or with a leader who has never heard of this concept, doesn't get it at all, is totally oblivious? Like, paint those two worlds for us.
Yeah. Well, how it could be most effective is when you're able to do that exact thing, which you said, I'm not my thoughts, with your emotions. Because in the end, what Science Magazine reported recently is that 95% of all of our habits, our behavior is fueled by the subconscious mind. Now, the
Mhm.
subconscious mind only understands feeling and emotion. It doesn't understand language. So
Right.
when you think about it, then most of what we do is fueled by emotion. And by the way, for the listener who's saying, "Well, that's not me. I'm very logical. I'm very, I have news for you. You're
It's
still fueled by
still,
emotion.
yep,
Like you're still a human being. You may not
1000%.
show the emotion, right? It may not surface. You
Yeah.
may justify it logically, which I am that kind of version
Mhm.
of human, which is my emotion will drive me and I'll justify it logically and I'll have a really good way of explaining things, right? I know now, though, that most of what I'm deciding is fueled with my emotion. So if a leader is able to tap into that, what would that mean? It means that you will avoid that one word or one sentence that you could say that could completely create chaos within your team, that could unintentionally impact another person in a negative way, or it could lead you to make a better decision in the moment that showcases your actual value because you're not reacting with emotion. You're responding with logic. So I see this, Sarah, in leaders when I teach them these practices of how to bring meditation or mindfulness into their life. They tell me, huh,
Yeah.
I was in that meeting, and normally when that person says something, that
Yeah.
one person, we all have that person in the meeting, right?
Right.
When they would trigger me, I was able to respond with confidence in a way that I never could before because
Hmm.
they would be triggered, amygdala would fire off, cortisol flows through the body, fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's
Hmm.
what happens.
Yeah.
But with meditation, the prefrontal cortex, that area of the brain that is objective and
Right.
reasonable, jumps in and says, wait a minute, we don't need to freak out here. Let's consider the best way to respond to this person.
And it just feels powerful.
Oh,
Does it
yeah.
not? Don't you just feel like a freaking powerhouse when you're able to do that? You're like, man, that used to set me off. That would ruin my day. That would cause me to snap at my kid. And now I'm just like, Mr. Miss Zen or whatever, and you're just like, this feels so much better. I think if people really understood that and had their first win with it, they're like, I'm never going back because it feels so much better to be empowered than to just feel like you're on a roller coaster all day long.
Well, the way you just described that is what I experienced. It was because I got the result. Like I got the feedback, Sarah. Like when you get the feedback, then you become more interested in it. And
Right.
for the people who are like, I don't believe that's going to help me or that's not really for me, you haven't gotten the feedback yet. So what I would encourage you to do is experiment, test it, just like anything, right?
Right.
Experiment, test it. After a few weeks, see if there is a difference. If you do the practice regularly, here's the good news. Whether you believe it or not, what the fMRI scans show in human brains when people do this, whether they believe it or not, a change happens.
Absolutely.
Just like if you go to the gym every day, even if you didn't believe that the gym would help you to be physically healthier, it's gonna make
Right?
you healthier. It's just the
100%.
way
It's
it
going to
is.
affect your organs. It's going to affect your
Right.
oxygen, so your genes might not look different, but all the work is happening under the surface no matter what. What did your initial practice look like when you first started? Where you were like, okay, I'm gonna sit down for 30 minutes and, sit and crisscross applesauce? Like, what does this look like? I think a lot of people feel like, oh man, I'd love to do that, but that just A, isn't me, or I don't have the time or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
what
Well,
did it
first
look
off,
like then? What does it look like now?
First of all, I am not flexible at all. My body is so stiff, Sarah, that I could not sit in a lotus position even if I tried. So for me, no, it would be sitting at the edge of my sofa
Yeah.
and I would close my eyes and I would simply bring my attention to my breathing
Mhm.
and observe the sensations of the breath in,
Yeah.
out. And I would count because it helped me to not be distracted all the time. So it'd
Right.
be like in, out, one, in, out, two. And I would do that for, at first it was 2 minutes
Right.
because I
That's hard
learned
enough in the beginning.
yeah, right. And habit forming, you start small, right? And then you
Yeah.
build. So then 2 minutes expanded to five, and then five went to 10, and then 10 went to 20. And now I'd say I was at 20 was probably the max.
Yeah.
And then now I do more like 10 every day.
Perfect.
Not
Yeah.
because I think like, I don't need it anymore. No, I just feel like my routines and the amount of time I have available, what fits for me in the morning is 10 minutes
Yeah.
of meditation. I do also a visualization practice,
Yeah.
which of
Same.
course we could talk about. I know that's a big part of your life. And so I pair those two things. And now maybe the big difference for me is while before I would make it very much about the breath and observing the breath. Now I've gotten to a place where I just sit and I observe. So whatever comes up, I may
Yeah.
notice a thought, I may notice a feeling. The practice in Zen tradition is called shikantaza, where you just simply sit. I would encourage someone to think of that as more of like an advanced kind of
Right.
practice.
Right.
Start with the breathing, and then you can get to a place where you could just sit and observe, and you get the same benefits as you would if you were counting your breath.
I love that so much. I was first introduced to meditation through hot yoga. I started way back with Bikram, and their whole philosophy back then was if you listen to the words coming out of my mouth, that is where your focus follows, right? Each word. And through that, it clears the rest of the noise. And that was really interesting to me because I had such a hard time sitting in in any type of silence. Like my brain would just be like, whoa, like that's the moment to hit me that much harder. And then I started really giving it a practice, giving it kind of the 10 minutes. And one of the little tricks that I had heard somewhere that helped a lot was like to see if you can see the inside of your eyelids. And that was like crazy. That almost like kind of tapped me into the zone faster, where I was like, oh, so like that was really fun. Like to learn, like I can play with this. I can do the counting. I can feel the breath. I can try these other different things. And now one of my active meditations that I absolutely love is listening to an audiobook, oddly enough, because it's kind of like the same concept as the Bikram yoga, listen to the voice. When you're in the middle of a novel, if you check out and are thinking about all these stressful things in your life, you're missing the whole plot within 3 minutes. And so it constantly brings you back to that, and it's helped train my focus
Yeah.
so much better. So interesting. When it comes to resilience, this is a conversation I'm having a lot in the corporate environment right now. It's so interesting how few people innately have strong resilience. Don't you think? Like, what are you seeing in corporate? What does it look like when someone has doesn't really have strong resilience, and on the other side of that, what does it look like, especially in a time that we're living in right now, when someone's cultivated?
Yeah. I think the reason why we see people struggle is because they have a wrong definition of what resilience is. So they
Mm.
think resilience is, oh, I just have to keep going and going and going and going, even when
Hmm.
it's hard, which is the craziest definition that
Right.
any of us as human beings could apply because it's unnatural.
And it's
Think about
exhausting.
it's exhausting, but it's unnatural. I think about anything, right? Think about I don't know, a lion. Okay, think about how a lion would behave, right? We would think a lion is quite resilient, right? A
Right.
lion, though, will have its time when it's going to hunt, where it's going to feed, but then the lion sleeps for a very long time,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
the lion gets back up. Anything, you look at nature and the way trees work and the way anything works, there's a season of growth and then a season of rest.
Mm.
That's the natural process. So we struggle with resilience because we try to just tell ourselves we could just keep going, going and going and going and going and going and going, and then
Yeah.
we burn out. So don't think people think, well, rest is I'll get rest when I'm dead, right? I'll
Right.
sleep when
Right.
I'm dead. People say that it's ridiculous. Like
Right.
you rest not to take a break from your work. You rest because that's the recharge needed for you to then be able to perform at a high level. And here's another one, Sarah, that like
Yeah.
comes up with people a lot. They say, Jay, I don't have the time. I don't have the time for any of that. I don't have time to go exercise. I don't have time to meditate. Well, here's an analogy. You have your phone. I have my phone. Everybody has their cell phone. Of course, we have our
Right.
phones with us everywhere we go. When you use your phone, it's going to drain battery. If you're using the phone a lot, if you have the hotspot on, you're doing navigation, you're playing videos, what's going to happen to the battery? It
Yeah.
drains faster. So that means you need to charge it more. We
Right.
know that practically, but we
Yeah.
don't apply that to ourselves. We say, well, when my demand increases, I'm going to have less time to charge. That sounds crazy. When your
Hmm.
demand increases, you actually need to do more
Right.
recharging. Like you need
Yeah.
to sleep more. You need to make sure you get your exercise in. You need to meditate. You need time with your family because otherwise you are heading down the path of burnout.
Oh my God, completely. I love that. And one of the things that I'm always working with executives on, especially because they're very much kind of programmed that way, is you also need some joy, which I know sounds like an insane word to bring into a corporate environment. And I did get a lot of crazy looks 5 or 6 years ago when I first brought that in. But like the the clarity that meditation brings, right, to your mind, to your decision making, whatever. Joy kind of does this just amazing release. It's almost like a that stress reliever. It's like letting the air out of the balloon. Like, okay, I can. But most people don't know, have any clue. First of all, like, well, what brings me joy? I'm just hoping I'm gonna have like a funny moment with my kid, and then I'm gonna laugh for about 30 seconds or something. Like what is it that like helps me genuinely disconnect, be in an environment that I love, be able to not think about anything else but the thing I'm doing? Is there anything for you that does help you kind of do that? Something that you love that helps you recharge in a way that maybe isn't rest or working out, but it's just that fulfillment piece almost, kind of like
Yeah,
bringing in that
of-
fulfillment.
absolutely. I think the thing that sounds really simple, and this is based off your personality, but for me, calling my wife and having a conversation.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
know that sounds so simple,
yeah,
but like for me, just hearing her voice,
right,
asking about her day, talking through what's going on is charging for me
right.
because I'm connecting to a
Mhm.
person I love and I care about. And it gives me the charge to then be able to go back to whatever I was doing. So at
Yeah,
times when I'm really feeling the demand increase, my go-to is call my wife.
need that
Now,
moment, that like pocket to just, yeah,
yeah, and that
recharge.
may not be for everyone, right? Some people they charge more from like I need to go write something down
Yeah,
and journal, or I need to just go for a walk outside in nature, which is very helpful for me too. You just got to know what yours is. Like you have to
right.
take
Take the
inventory
time.
of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, what is the thing that when I do this, if I watch myself throughout the week, when I did this, it gave me the most energy. And I know for me, human connection
hmm,
gives me energy. And so I rely on it to be the thing that gives me the charge I need to keep going when my demand is really high.
Yeah, I love that. The other thing that we're seeing a lot, I know you are too, is burnout. I mean, it's so interesting because definitely in COVID, obviously that was the question everyone, or the topic all day, every day. And then it feels like I kind of went away for a little bit and it is back in full force right now. That is literally what everyone is like, I can't take it one more day. What, if you're a leader and you have a team, what are some early signs of burnout where you can kind of, if you're aware and connected to your team and you have that emotional intelligence or IQ, how can you kind of spot it early on if you have someone who might be struggling on your team? What does it look like? Are there some signs that you've seen in your work that are pretty standard?
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that you'll see often is that people are withholding information and they're not sharing
Mm,
because they don't feel safe sharing.
yes,
It,
yes.
if you're really what Google Project Aristotle research really showcased was psychological safety is the most important of all factors in determining a team that is high performing and innovative and creative. So the opposite of that, when people don't feel safe, then you're going to see burnout. You're going to see a low performance.
Right.
So as a leader, what you have to notice is, are my people afraid to share? Are they
Yeah.
hesitant? Are they holding back? When I ask them about an idea or a suggestion, are they short in their answers? They're
Mm,
not as expressive? Are they afraid of what someone else is going to think of them so they
right.
don't say anything? These are the signs that you really want to look for when it comes to people on a path to burnout. And I'd say, the other thing that often comes up is when you see people who are jumping from one thing to the next to the next to the next, and they're overwhelmed with the amount of that's on their plate. And it's related to their inability to focus on just one thing. So when your attention is being pulled in all these different directions,
Right.
very often this is what is behind people burning out. So there's two things there, right? There's one, I don't feel safe, and two, my attention is scattered all over the place. And
Yep.
if you, these are two things that often cause people to just get to a point where they put their hands up and they say, I'm done.
Right. And then they think, well, if I just get a different job, it'll all be all better. And then they get right back in the exact same cycle.
Yeah, some of that, of course, there's two ways of looking at it, right? So there's one is the individual has to do work. And
Hmm.
then two, how the leader is creating a
Yeah.
culture of safety and focus. So for you as an individual, you need to ask yourself, how much of this sense of feeling unsafe is it due to my perception of what's happening?
Right.
Which is often the case, which is you are interpreting it in a way that makes you feel unsafe.
Yeah.
Other times, Sarah, and I say this with a lot of, empathy, which is at times it is an unsafe environment. That
Yeah.
could be the
Yeah.
case, right? It's often not the case, but it could be the case.
Yeah.
So you have to truly discern, is this environment really threatening? Or is it the story that I'm telling myself
Yeah.
about it
Yeah.
that's making me feel threatened?
Exactly. Like what have I had that experience myself yet? Let's say that made me feel unsafe. Or have I just been assuming that if I gave honest feedback when I was asked, that it would go all wrong and I would get in trouble or these horrible things would happen. That is a good filter question to ask yourself. Like, is this an assumption or is this based on my actual data of what has happened when I have been truthful and honest and told my leader what they might not want to hear, but it's information they need to have. And I think like that's also a conversation I've been having a lot lately, and I've written about it in my LinkedIn newsletter. The risk is so high, I feel like, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this for management, for leadership, and executive leadership, and for the whole company. Let's be honest. When you don't have an environment of honesty, like underneath all of that, if you have a whole chain of a team that is built under a culture where they are afraid to be open and honest, give actual status updates, they're just saying yes to everything because that's a culture that has been created. I mean, to me, that just seems like such a massive risk, because then you're not getting the expertise of everyone you hired to have the expertise.
Yeah.
because no one is feeling safe enough to be part of that genuine conversation. If you notice that, if you start to kind of see some of that, and you're like, hey, I think, we might be in a little bit of that culture. That culture is starting to form here. What can a leader do? Like, how do they turn that around?
Yeah. So that's a honesty is really you're hitting the core of it. It's people are afraid to be honest, and it's oftentimes, and this is where I feel a lot of compassion for leaders because they have a lot of pressure a lot of the time. They're they struggle to be vulnerable.
Right.
They don't want to show a sign of weakness. They want to show that they want to posture and show that
Mhm.
they can get through it. And I don't know about you, Sarah, but of the people I've had the honor of working under, people,
Right.
leaders that I really admire, the ones that I look up to the most are the ones that were vulnerable, that
Absolutely. Because
were
then you are
honest.
like, I will go to bat for you. I
Exactly.
will
I'll follow you through the gates of hell, right?
100%.
Because
Yes.
you were real with me. You were authentic with me. So what are the things that I encourage leaders to do? I tell them, how do you take a step in that direction?
Yeah.
Can you get on a call and just tell people that, hey, last week, last month, we went through X and it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard for me.
Yep.
What maybe it was, letting people go, which is happening, right? Cuts are happening
Right. Right.
everywhere, and a leader who their team, they all went through it. If you don't acknowledge that
Yeah.
that was hard, and you just said, okay, that's over, and let's go look forward to
Right.
the
And now
people aren't
do
going to,
double work because I
right?
just fired the person sitting next to you to do both their jobs without a
Yeah,
raise and
and
don't
and
say
and
anything
I
about
and I really want like every person hearing this, like I want you to really understand, like I get it that the leader above you may make you feel like,
it.
oh, I have to put on a face. I hear you.
Yeah.
And it is your responsibility to the people that are looking to you as a leader to be vulnerable and be real. It doesn't mean you're going to complain about all the things and fall into a victim mindset. Those are
Right.
two different things. I'm saying acknowledge the reality, talk about what's going on in an honest way. And I bet, I know, not I bet, I know if you do that, then everyone on your team will begin to open up and you're now
Oh
creating
my God, yes.
an environment of safety.
100%. If you can learn how, I challenge every leader out there. If you have people who report to you, learn about how you create emotional safety, what you've been talking about earlier. Because when you do that, first of all, every single relationship, every single person you interact with is going to go way better. Your wife or your husband's going to be like, thank God. Your kids are gonna be like, oh, thank God, right? Because it changes your aura. It changes the energy you bring to every single room. And it does not, to your point earlier, the difference between the posturing, or to me, it's kind of like the difference between confidence and cocky. No one likes a cocky person, right? Like you
Right.
can't stand that freaking person. No one also likes the leader who's the posture. Like that's the one everyone complains about behind their back. And it's like, can't stand this freaking person, you know?
Yeah.
But to your point, the leader who is vulnerable, the leader who is open, the leader who really wants to know what you think because your brain power is important in the room and it makes them make better decisions. And now they have all the information. And now I'm making that person feel empowered that I'm talking to. And I am building them up in a way that is subtle. I don't have to like stroke their ego for no reason, but I'm giving them value that they deserve. And so once I've created that, to me, that's one of those ways that you can create that safety.
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah.
validating when someone does give you that honest truth, like thank you so much for telling me where we were at because I really didn't know.
Yeah.
And now that I know that, that makes it interesting. What do you suggest we do about it? Just something
Yeah.
simple like that to that
It
all of a sudden just, yeah,
goes
is
such a long
disarming.
way.
Yeah.
One of the I'll tell you this story that always stuck with me, Sarah, of this kind of scenario and a mistake I made and how I was leading. So, because what we're saying ultimately is people want to be heard, right? They want to be heard. They want to be
Man.
seen. So I remember when I was learning all about leadership, I was a regional manager at the time for a company named SolarCity. I was learning about how I should get feedback from my team. So I'm
Yeah.
calling up all my reps and I'm asking them for feedback. And I get on the phone with my top performer. His name is George. I say, George, I'm trying to get feedback about how I can be a better leader for you. Can you help me? What can I do better for you? And George goes, You know what, Jay? You're doing great.
Right? They're
Right.
terrified. Like, oh God,
Right.
no.
Right. And I'm like, this is a sign. So my ears
Hmm.
perked up and I say to him, I say to him, George, I say, please, you're going to help me. Like, what can I do better? And he says, well, Jay, sometimes we go through something hard. A customer cancels, a project gets disqualified. And I love your positivity. You're always positive, but at times it makes me feel like you don't understand what we're going through.
Ooh, such good feedback too,
Oh,
because that resonates in every part of your life. You might have no idea that's what you do at
right.
all, or that it's received that way. And now knowing that, you're like, oh my God, I could tweak it just a tiny bit here, and that doesn't happen. The person
It
feels
does.
seen and hurt.
I would have never known, Sarah. I would have never
Ah,
known that I was doing that. I
yeah,
always thought, because I was younger, right? I always
right,
thought, when something's a challenge, find the good, find the
right.
positive. And I realized that that's nonsense. At times,
At times,
something's
yeah,
hard. It's just, hey, you know what? Going forward, now I learned that lesson.
yeah,
This is hard. What you told me,
yeah,
that's rough, and I get it, and I'm here for you. That's all I
absolutely.
need to say. I don't need to try to fix it. I don't need to be the problem solver. I just at times what your people need is someone who just acknowledges what they're going through and
Mm,
just is there for them. At the appropriate time, you can
right.
offer coaching. At appropriate time, you can give them direction. At certain moments when it's really tough, the best thing you can do is just say, I hear you, I see you, and I'm here for you.
1,000%. Like just be a landing. It might just be for that one day. But if you can be that soft landing, then you're building trust. And now that person is going to feel more comfortable the next time they have to bring something to you. And also a lot of times when you're around that person who's like a 24/7 cheerleader, you love it about 75% of the time because you're like, God, I love being around that. I need that. Let me drain that from you. That feels so good. But you're right in that 25%. You're like, bro, shut the fuck up. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I don't want to hear it. I don't
Like
want to
you do
hear
not get
your
me. You don't understand. And it feels so devaluating when it's not meant to at all, and it can come across completely the opposite of everything that's intended. So I think like just learning about yourself, learning about communication styles, I think is just mind-blowingly helpful
Yep.
because now all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. And a lot of times these are small little tweaks, but they make all the difference in the world. And when the other thing I think that is really important that you were kind of touching on too is you might be at a company that has an environment that's might be a little rough. It might be fires are burning 24/7. Just say yes to me. Just do what I ask you to do. Don't say anything, whatever. If you're in that management chain, you still can create a little micro. I'm curious to see what you think about this, but in my experience, like you still can create your own micro environment with your team. You can create safety. You can change the communication dynamic in your own team. Yes, it might not change the whole company, but you could still do that in your team. I really believe that's true. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, I went through it, Sarah. I worked at Tesla years ago, and you know, for those who have ever worked close to Elon Musk, they know what he's like and they know how hard it is. What we would say at Tesla is don't get too close to the sun, because if you got
Right?
too close to the sun, you were going to
You're
burn. And
fried.
and so right. So I mean, imagine the person who has to report to him. It's a very different experience than what I did because I never reported directly to
Right.
Elon. What we created though within Tesla Academy, where we had this arm of just learning and development, was a culture of trust and
Yeah.
safety. And it was thanks to the leadership that
Right.
really set that tone. If you went over parallel to a
Yeah.
different department, maybe it was in sales or research and development, it could be a completely different
Mhm.
experience. And we all worked under a company named Tesla. So
Right.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. A leader has that ability to set a tone and create a culture. We can't use excuses of, well, this is the way the company is, or
Right.
this is the way my leader is, or so on. Your job is to serve the people who look to you as a leader. That's your job. It's your number one
Absolutely.
job.
Yeah.
It's
And to
your most important
cultivate them.
responsibility.
Yeah, and to
Yeah.
cultivate them, to teach them these things, to make them better communicators, better team members, all of those things. And you do that by embodying it and by being the example. And like you said, I think that is also where you not just gain trust, but you gain loyalty, you know?
Oh
And you
yeah.
might be in an
Absolutely.
environment that thinks that you gain loyalty by the stick. Like, no, you actually gain it by the carrot.
Well, I think, the thing that is the common trait I see in those leaders who are creating loyalty and fellowship is they drop their egos. They just
Oh,
don't make it about them. I mean, it's such a common natural thing that we always focus on what we get as individuals, and we're focusing on the outcomes that we want, our own personal desires. That's part of being human. So to be a leader means you have to learn how to let go of your own personal desires and your own ego and only what you get, and shift into what you give and putting others in the spotlight. And I have to say, Sarah, that's not for everybody, and that's okay, right?
right.
Some people, they're better off in an individual contributor role, and they're going to shine there and they're going to
Mhm.
thrive there. You need to be able to really let go of it being
Yeah.
about you to be an effective leader.
Yeah, I think you're so right. It's almost in my mind kind of the way I had my parenting, or I've always had my parenting philosophy of my kids are my biggest resume. They're going to go out into the world and they're going to be a reflection of me. They're going to, either be kind to people or whatever. And so as a leader, your team is a reflection of you too. And they're going to reflect the environment that you're building. And people will take notice over time. They'll be like, huh, why is her team thriving or his team thriving? Like, they're not complaining as much. And so I don't know. To me, I love a little challenge. So if you're a leader and you're listening to this, like challenge yourself. Just say, hey, can I play around with some of this stuff? Can I find a style that works for me and try to incorporate more safety, more open communication? How do I lift this person up rather than like maybe triggering them or
Yeah, and
low key cutting them down?
yeah, and we want to avoid, of course, the other side too, because this sometimes happens, right, Sarah? Where we're just only focusing on empathy, and we're only like, you don't want to create that either, where
Right.
it's now not about performance and results. No, you have a job to do as a leader to get results, right?
Yep.
That's part of your role too. So it's in other words, it's not binary. It's not either you're this, people pleasing leader where you
Yeah.
make everybody happy but we don't get results, or
Yeah.
you're this harsh leader that
Yeah.
just gets results and doesn't think about the human side. The good news is there is an approach where you can have both things. You can have a
Absolutely.
safe culture with a high standard.
1,000,000%. And thanks for bringing that up because to me, the leader that is a leader and not a manager, like to me, they're very different regardless of where you fall in that chain. It's a leader is cultivating, cultivating, cultivating. They're not a people pleaser in any way, shape, or form, but they're open, they're receptive to feedback, they want feedback. That's how they're pulling together their decision. And to me, that's like high intelligence. If I can cut my ego, like you said, and instead tap into all this knowledge that I have, um, and kind of show that in a way that does empower performance, because I do think it is definitely linked. If I'm
Hmm.
feeling like I am heard, seen, and valued, I'm gonna perform better, right? I'm sure you see that all the time. Like the
Yeah.
difference between that, especially a person who is driven by, let's say, affirmations is their love language. It's a funny conversation that initially to have in corporate, but it completely translates. If I understand that about a person,
Yeah.
then I know that giving them positive feedback in a meeting is going to mean more to them than giving them the $2 raise that, is the cost of living raise or whatever the case is. So those little things, it's like that's how a really good leader, a perceptive leader is like building up this person over here with that way, building up that person over here. And all of that is lifting the performance together. So I think that's such a good point that you made. Like, we're not talking about being soft here in that way,
Right.
right? That
Yeah.
is not what this is.
Right. And there's the way I often look at it is there's a difference between being nice and being kind.
Mhm.
Being nice is I'm always trying to make you feel good, and I
Right.
really want you to be happy and I want you to like me. And in leadership, I don't think that's the approach you want to take.
No, and that can be
Being
placating again. Like you're talking about, that can
right.
be come across as totally placating.
Right. Being kind, you use the word honest before as being honest.
Hmm.
And at times, kindness is firm.
Hmm.
At times, kindness is direct.
Yeah.
Kindness can mean I have this standard for you because I believe you can perform at this level.
Right.
And if you don't meet this standard, there is work to be done.
Yep.
So I feel like we need to, and this is at times uncomfortable for people
Hmm.
to be able to, maybe it's easy for you to be likable and to build that trust, and it's harder for you to hold people accountable. It's harder for you to set that standard. I get it. For me, that was my struggle. I could be nice to everybody, but it was hard for me to be that kind of kind and accountable to people. So I had to always lean into that discomfort. It took a long time for me to be able to communicate in a way where I was very clear. I
Yeah.
said, these are the standards. You're being held accountable to this. And if you don't meet them, we're going to have an honest conversation about that.
Yeah, I had, I think I've probably told this story on here before, but I had a CEO at one of my first very meaningful corporate positions where I was advancing very quickly. It was a startup. When I started, it had like, I think I was maybe the 35th employee, and now it's a global humongous company. But back then, we had I was lucky enough to have a leader who is everything we've just described, I would have laid on a train track. I was like, just tell me what to do, because he believed in you. He saw potential in you and he cultivated it and then he let you go do it. And when you had questions, you came back, and just that autonomy was amazing for me. It was very empowering for me. But I was not used to being a leader at all. I'd never been a leader before. And he put me in a brand new leadership position where I was working cross-functionally for the first time. And it was going a little rough, let's just say. And I remember he took me to lunch probably about 2 months into my new role, and he was like, "So, you have an amazing potential. I'm glad I put you in this position, but you don't always have to be a bull in a china shop." And I was like, "Wait, what? What do you mean?" And he was great. He really broke it down. He was like, "Here's some examples. I know you're super passionate about this and you want to fight every single battle, but here's how to fight the ones that matter, and here's how to let the other ones go, and here's how to not cause tension." And I was just like, I will never forget. I'm talking about it now 15 years later. I've written about it
Yeah.
in every single one of my books. it
Yeah.
it changed me. To this day it changed me. I even printed out an image of a bull in a china shop and put it on my computer at work. So I was like, thanks for letting me know. I had no idea. I just thought I was being diligent and, like fighting for this division I was leading, and to have someone have that foresight and to kind of see the signs, and then the way he delivered it to not belittle me or make me feel like, oh my God, I've fucked up and I can't rescue this. Instead, it was like, no, make a tweak here, make a tweak there, and you got this. And
Yeah.
it stuck with me forever.
He challenged you. He
Hmm.
challenged you,
Yeah. Like,
respectfully
I know
challenged
you
you.
can do this. So
Yeah.
let's make this
Yeah.
tweak and let's get you here. And I was
Right.
like,
And
okay, I'll do it.
that's a really powerful story. And I feel like, those are the leaders that we remember. Those are the
Hmm.
ones that make the big difference. And so for all the listeners here, how can you be that leader? How can you challenge people in a way that gives them the motivation to meet that higher standard? And the way you do it is you don't force them. You don't do it with fear. You don't do it by belittling them. You do it by believing in them.
Amen. That right there. All right. That is a perfect note for us to end on today, Jay. Thank you so much for pouring into us, giving us all of this knowledge and wisdom. And I really hope everyone who's listening takes something away from this and does it, whether that is the meditation, whether that is learning more about how to create safety in your work environment. There's so much that we talked about today that you can apply to your own life. And every single one of those things we talked about is going to make a massive difference. So thank you for being here and sharing all your wisdom today.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And I'm going to put all the links to your podcast, your incredible podcast. Is there anything else that you're working on right now that you want to share with everybody?
Well, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So anyone who finds me on LinkedIn, you'll see we post
Yeah,
regularly, and working on a book, but that'll probably be next year, and I'm
love
excited about
that.
that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Uh,
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you so much. You've written, so you know how much goes into that.
Oh, I
Um,
do.
yeah, it'll be very rewarding when it comes out.
Oh, I love that so much. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Do all the things like, share, comment, reach out and follow Jay on LinkedIn. And until next time, get out there and thrive.